Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Reyna, and I'm here today to have Delaney. I'm delighted to have Delaney Morgan with us today. We represent Beacon Therapeutic. It's a social service agency that's been in existence since 1968. It was founded by parents who were trying to find special ed programming for their children, and since 1968, we've really evolved to a whole myriad of programs. For the next 30 minutes, you will be hearing specifically about one of our programs, our Therapeutic Day School. Morgan Delaney is a social worker within their program. And I will put up some information about the other Beacon programs that we have. Just as a reminder, this is a live call-in show. The number is listed on your screen. It's 312-738-1060. And so if you have any questions or comments about the program or about what we do at Beacon, please feel free to give us a call. So I'm going to put a listing of the programs that Beacon operates. We have our Therapeutic Day Schools. We have 2 of them. We work with children ages K through 12, and today we'll be talking about the elementary school program. We have homeless outreach services. Beacon is one of the largest providers of mobile mental health services throughout the city of Chicago. We also operate an early Head Start program where we're working with children who are at risk from birth to 3 years old, and that's citywide and it's home-based. We also have a CHIPRA program where we are enrolling teens, homeless, and runaway youth into Illinois' All Kids Health Insurance Program. We also operate an innovative FACT program. It stands for Family Assertive Community Treatment, where we're targeting young mothers with children who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. We have 2 day treatment programs, a little and big intensive outpatient program essentially that works with kids who need more intensive programming. They can be served within their community setting. One of our newest programs is our 100,000 Homes campaign, where we're targeting homeless, vulnerable families and moving them into housing and stability. And we also have a traditional outpatient mental health program. We do operate out of 4 different locations, and those are on your screen. We have our administrative offices located on 103rd. All of our homeless services are delivered within the community. However, the office space for the staff is on Western Avenue. Our high school is located at Kell Park, and our Longwood campus that houses our elementary school and our outpatient programs is on Longwood Drive. Today we'll be focusing in a little bit more on our Longwood campus, and particularly the elementary school program. I am delighted to have Morgan Delaney with us today. Morgan is a social worker therapist within our elementary site, so welcome, Morgan.
Thanks for having me, Susan.
So tell me a little bit about your background and how did you get involved with Beacon?
Well, I studied social work at the University of Illinois at Chicago, right down the street from the studio,
that's right.
and I have a master's degree in social work, and I hold an LCSW license. I first heard about Beacon when I was in my first year internship at grad school. I worked for a foster care agency, and one of my duties there was to visit the schools of the children receiving services there, and Beacon was one of the schools I ended up visiting. So I was aware of the positive atmosphere and the general good vibes, and so when I completed my degree, I saw that there was an opening there, and I jumped on it.
Oh my God, that's great. I wasn't aware of that connection. That's good to hear. It's kind of nice to see the perspective then from another position and now being in the position you're in. So tell me a little bit about what do you do at Beacon?
Well, my job title is therapist, so that translates as social worker in most other schools. So, my primary responsibility is providing therapy services to the students who attend school there. Our students get more social work time than they may at a regular school, so it's actually a great opportunity for a practitioner because a lot of times in this kind of resource poor world, social work or therapy services are delivered in real short spurts where we get to develop longer working relationships with the great majority of our clients.
Well, describe a little bit about what kinds of kids come to the day school, to the elementary school.
The students who come to the Longwood campus are generally students who have had behavior problems that have interfered with either their own learning or the learning of others. Various interventions are tried in the public school setting, and when there's documentation that those interventions have not been successful, school districts may refer their students for more intensive services like Therapeutic Day School.
And I know we have a caller. Caller, is there a question?
Yes, I'd like to know, each year, how many students in your therapy school do you transition back to their home school?
that's interesting. That's an excellent question. One of the things that Chicago Public Schools has moved to is essentially establishing benchmarks, and schools such as ours are held to these standards to see how we're doing. And the school, Chicago Public Schools in particular, has targeted that we are required. The goal is that we send 10% of our students back to their home school every year. And part of the dilemma with that is that we're not producing widgets. We can't say, these 10% get to go. It really is driven by the children and how ready they are and how ready the school is to receive them, along with how well the family is able to help them transition successfully into their home school, as well as, of course, how ready the child is. But annually, we do always exceed that benchmark. It varies, and we go anywhere from 10% to maybe about 12% of our kids go back. The goal, that's from day one. The goal is to get them to go back into their home school. So for our elementary site, I don't know exactly what your enrollment is right now, but I think we can go up to like 60. We've gone anywhere from returning, 6 to 10 of our kids annually. They go back into their home school. And then maybe, I don't think that's on one of the discussions we talked about, but how do we transition kids back into their home school? There's a process.
Yeah, well, one of the behavior interventions we have at Longwood is a level system. So each day, a student has the opportunity to earn points for positive behaviors or for doing the various things they're supposed to do during the school day. If they're able to earn their day for a targeted number of days, they move up on the level system. So the level system, we have 4 levels: bronze, silver, gold, and honors. The expectations increase with each level, and also with each level the rewards increase and the privileges increase. It keeps kids on track as they move through their program day, but it's also a great tool to measure whether they're ready to return to the public school setting. So we generally feel very confident with the expectations and criteria we have in place for a student to be on honors level. We feel confident in sending them back to their home school when they've been on honors level for usually a period of between 4 to 6 months. If they can maintain that level, we think of honors level as public school behavior. So if they can maintain that level over a significant period of time, we're pretty sure it's going to be a successful move back to their previous setting.
So we're looking at, when the kids come to us, they're having problems with learning, they're having problems with their behavior, with their emotions, and so on. So this deals with some of their behavioral needs, but also concurrently, all the academic needs are being addressed as well. So as part of the school, we're approved by Illinois State Board of Education that regularly looks at what we're doing academically, curriculum-wise with the kids, but then we're also looking at what their grades are like, are they doing their homework, so all these things, and it's a very thoughtful process when we're transitioning our kids in, and there's a meeting that's held, and who has a voice and when the kids are ready to go back.
Well, the school district has a big voice in it. The staff, the team at Beacon makes their recommendations, and the parent, of course, is an expert on their child. And the child, him or herself, also gets to explain why they think they're ready or why they don't think they're ready. We certainly don't want a kid to go back who really doesn't feel that they're ready. We may think it's the best thing for them, but we don't want to push that process. So we need to listen to all the voices that are,
And I know we have a staff member that's dedicated to successful transitions. So part of what our reintegration person does is they form linkages with the receiving school to work out some of the kinks. And I know I've heard things like they'll, maybe help the child figure out how to open up their locker, or how to transition within classes, or the uniforms. I mean, some of our kids do have some significant economic challenges. So how do they get the child's uniform? How do they work out the lunch maneuver and all those other things? And sometimes it's slow, right? It's a day or two or half a day.
Yeah, a lot of times we do something called dual enrollment, where one of our students may leave us at about lunchtime and finish the last hour or two of their day at their home school, just to kind of get used to the waters. If that's successful, then we either increase that amount of time or we make the move towards them going there full time.
And I know particularly with our kids that have come to the school, for many of them, this is like the final placement for them. they've really exhausted everything within their home school. And during the course of that of exhaustion, they've exhausted their home school. Period. They've developed, unfortunately, sometimes very negative reputations within their home school, and there's a lot of repair work that needs to be done to really make sure it's successful. So that's why this transition back to the home school is really done very thoughtfully and carefully. But whenever kids come to us, the goal is to quickly get them back as soon as we can. So I know that question kind of led into a bunch of other things that clearly you're an expert in. So tell me, what does your day look like? What are because I know it's a team, so the therapists, social workers are one of the members. Who are the other team members, and how do they all work together?
Well, we of course have dedicated educational staff, our teachers and teaching aides. We also have behavior intervention staff who are there to intervene and process with students who maybe are upset during the day or having difficulty managing their emotions. We have a great administrative team that's really supportive to all of us working there in the milieu. And basically a typical day for me starts with I move the basketball rim from the multipurpose room out to the parking lot. And to many of our students, that's the single most important service I provide in a day.
That's interesting. That's meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's important. Yeah.
All our kids eat breakfast at the school, so usually the classrooms start with either a community meeting or some do a self-reflection activity like a journal entry to start the day and kind of get settled. Then the students have breakfast. After that, the academics start. And during the course of the academic day, students are being pulled out with some frequency to do the related services that we provide at the school. So occupational therapy, speech therapy, and of course social work. After lunch, the students often participate in more of the reward activities of the day, maybe some arts and crafts activities, some physical education time. Their day ends a little bit early. Their day ends about 1:30. They end with every student does some self-reflection time at the end of the day. They have a target behavior that they're working on, and they're asked to give themselves a grade on how they did on that behavior during the day. At 1:30, they go home on the bus, and the entire Beacon School staff gets together in a milieu meeting and discusses the events of the day. We talk about what worked, what didn't work. We talk about how we're going to respond to some of the more challenging behaviors that we experienced, and try to come up with either consequences or plans that are really going to be effective and have the purpose of helping the student improve.
You mentioned milieu, and I know within the clinical arena, that's a very common term. But what does that mean?
Well, I mean it mostly as team meeting. It's a staffing or where the teachers and the therapists and other staff at the school get together. The milieu is just the area where treatment happens. So.
And I think what you're kind of touching on is the concept of a milieu is creating a therapeutic environment, and that's clearly what the school strives to have throughout all of its program. So that kind of leads me into the whole concept of our philosophy of care. And what are some of the foundational supports that guide the work that you're doing and guide the school? I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, we do our best to really provide a nurturing, calm, safe environment for our students. Our students come from a variety of backgrounds and present the way they do for a variety of reasons, but something that we're trying to become more cognizant of is the effect that trauma has had on the lives of a lot of our students. So we want to make our practice trauma-informed and just be aware that this is a contributing factor to a lot of the behaviors we see. So we may see, as a result of experiences that students have had in the past, we may see things like hypervigilance. We may see a lot of anxiety about basic needs being met. And in order to make our school effective, we have to really make a predictable program which is very nurturing and supportive in tone. A lot of our kids, like you mentioned, have had bad experiences at their other schools, so they're kind of used to feeling bad about themselves. They may make a mistake, and if we redirect them in a harsh tone, that causes them to feel doubly bad about themselves, and that usually leads them to react poorly. So we really have to be careful of the tone that we present with throughout the program, and make it a very caring, calm, and nurturing environment.
And I think to be able to balance that, I know it's extremely challenging work, and I am always impressed with how savvy our kids are to pick up staff's buttons, you know, and and I think that really does require there's a very low staff to student ratio. So with in each classroom there's no more than 10 children, and there's one special education teacher and one paraprofessional, and then there's the therapists that are involved, and there's other supports that are involved. But there's also a lot of support that's attempted to be offered to the staff, because this is a very, very challenging type of work that we're trying to do with the kids. How are families involved? What kind of support do we provide to the families?
Well, one of the big tasks when a new student comes into our school is really developing that partnership with the family, because as the kids have had some bad experiences at their previous school, so have some of their parents. So reaching out and forming a working relationship with the parents is a big part of working with our population. We really encourage parents to be involved in any way they want to be. We're happy to have them come into the school for meetings as they see fit, and we really allow them to be experts on their child, and we try to inform the things that we're doing with the advice and the information that they give us.
And I know there's some parent activities coming up, but I understand we have a caller. Yes?
Yes, hi. I have a question. I wondered, as a community, what kind of support could a community help you with?
Thank you. Yeah, do you want to answer that?
Oh, yeah. We're always looking for, fun activities for our kids to do. We try to work the incentives into the program. So for those kids who have reached honors level, we always want to take them on outings as much as possible, visit different places around the community. So places that have opened their doors to us and let us come by, we really appreciate that. We try also to make Christmas a very nice time for our kids, and I know we get a lot of support from the community at those times, and we appreciate that and are always looking for opportunities like that.
Yeah, so and I think what you were saying, I know we've had some key partners that have really helped us, and those are the relationships that really make a difference. So I know Variety of Play, they provide things, the Beverly Arts Center. I think so. We're looking for folks in the community that can open their doors to our children coming in to benefit from whatever information they have or whatever resources, but also in terms of donations, that is always important. I know many times our families are just looking for basic necessities, so I know we will accept folks have made hygiene drives for our kids, or donations of shoes and different kinds of things. And of course there's fundraisers that we have, so we're always looking for the community to support us in those kinds of things. I know tomorrow we're having an honors lunch, right, or honors, and I think they were looking for raffle prizes, items that the kids could benefit. Going back to parent involvement, the honors lunch tomorrow, parents come to that, right?
To be honest, I'm not sure. We try to invite the parents in for events like that throughout the year. We try to have some assemblies where the kids will sing or put on a show, and it's always great. The parents usually aren't used to their kids participating in that kind of thing, so it's a real it's often a real special day for the families to get to see their kid up on stage and doing something like that.
Yeah, that's actually quite moving. You're right, because I would imagine our children are the children who normally don't get invited to the assemblies, because those large settings are probably the settings where our kids have the hardest time. I recall the principal at the high school one time describing that one of the biggest skill sets we were able to offer the kids is how to be a spectator at a sports game, because our kids don't know how to do that without getting into trouble sometimes. And I think that's a big achievement for our kids. How long have you been at Beacon now?
I've been at Beacon a little over 5 years now.
Okay, so that's a lot of time to see a lot of kids. Is there some particular story or one particular child that you really feel kind of made an impact on you, or made you feel like, okay, this is why I'm doing this work?
Well, I gotta say that the kids I work with have a huge impact on my life, because because we're able to spend such a significant amount of time working with each child. I spend some more time with these kids than a lot of the relationships I have in my personal life. So
5 years is a long time. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have certain kids that have been with us for that long, and I do miss them when they go away for the summer, and the kids that so many kids stand out in my mind because I don't know if it's coincidence, but I feel like there's a selection issue going on here that the kids who present in the ways that get them to Beacon School are some of the most charismatic kids that you'll ever come across. I've had more than one that could have successful TV sitcoms if they got found by the Hollywood studios.
Yeah. But it's interesting, and I think that one of our tenets to philosophy of care is that it's strengths based. And actually, I'd like to go back to that, but we have a phone call. Caller?
Hi, yes, I wanted to ask what sort of work you do with the students as far as conflict resolution skills are concerned, and really, redirecting some of the behavior surrounding that.
Okay.
Well, our first line of defense is to have a lot of staff present and to intervene very quickly in conflict situations. Social work time is a time where we do some one-on-one work with kids and we role play all the kinds of typical conflict scenarios that kids may get into. We practice those things up in the therapy office, like what if there's a conflict on the basketball court, or what if there's a conflict during free time in the classroom? How are we going to respond to that? We make it so that the child is used to doing these skills in a safe kind of separate environment, and then encourage them to use the skills in the classroom setting. We also, when students have problems with each other, we do a lot of social guidance. So if the student is receptive to it, we'll step in and we'll remind them of some of the things that we've worked on in session. I get to be a presence in the school quite a bit of the day, so I'm often there to make that intervention and help them through a conflict, and then give a lot of praise when they're able to successfully resolve it. We also take students out for what we call peer mediation, and we work through our problems verbally and then, really recognize the success that comes out of that. So the conflict resolution is a big part of our program, and also one of the key skills that, our kids have to develop in order to be successful outside of the Beacon School.
And I think, you're hitting on some real specialty offerings that a program like Beacon has, is that it's small, it's contained. You mentioned you're in the school the majority of the time. Your office is right upstairs. So, I think clearly when the staff, you've developed a real safety net between the teachers, the therapists, the behaviorists, that everybody's working together. And so you describe the milieu process at the end of the school day. That's when people are aware that, Johnny is having a really hard time. This month, it's the anniversary of his mother's death. So everybody's more on hyper alert that at that point he may be more susceptible to being triggered by his peers, or he just got out of the hospital, or she's in the process of transitioning off of a med and onto another medication. So there's different variables, and I think that level of team support really allows the staff to preemptively get involved. Or if there's trouble brewing on the bus on the way into school, people can be more alert that day there may be more of a conflict between the two. I know before the call we were talking about, I started mentioning our philosophy of care and it being strengths-based, and you were describing some of these kids could have their own sitcom. I think what's so amazing about all of our kids is they've managed to, despite all the traumas that they've endured, they still haven't given up. And I think that's what I see in the staff, is that despite all the difficulty with all the kids, the staff don't give up. And, and I always describe, we're very passionate about what we do. What would you say are some of the other things that the staff fall back on when things get what helps you keep going?
Well, we're a really tight-knit, close staff, and I have to say I work around some of the greatest people that I've ever met. We really do support each other every step of the way. We really work hard to maintain a sense of humor to help us keep our perspective. A lot of times, those after-school meetings, we may vent a little bit, but
I've been to them.
Yeah. And but as a team, we work really, really effectively, and we have found certainly this team has been very successful in solving the problems that we've encountered here in our workplace.
And I think in this climate where clearly everybody talks about how difficult it is to be a teacher and the challenges. Clearly it's so difficult to work in the setting that you're in, and I think I'm very grateful that you guys do such a great job, because it shows in the kids, and it shows in the graduation ceremonies. And having done that work myself, it's both incredibly challenging but so darn rewarding when you see the kids kind of come out the other side, or when they go back and they say thank you or something like that. And even if they don't, you've made an impact. So thank you very much, Morgan, for being on the show today. It's been great. I am going to put a little information in terms of an upcoming event that Beacon has. It is our Beacon Bash. And It is coming up at Joe's Sports Bar, July 26th, and this particular event supports our homeless services program that we've actually talked in the past quite a bit. But clearly any help to Beacon is always always greatly appreciated. So if you want any information on the event, you can contact Peggy Rourke at 773-298-6441. So that is our show for today. Again, Morgan, thank you. Thank you for all you do. Hopefully the kids will watch you and think like, oh, there's my therapist. Thank you again, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thanks for having me.